Lifting equipment includes any equipment used at work for lifting or lowering loads, including attachments used for anchoring, fixing, or supporting it. The regulations cover a wide range of equipment, including cranes, forklift trucks, lifts, hoists, mobile elevating work platforms, and vehicle inspection platform hoists. The definition also includes lifting accessories such as chains, webbing slings, eye bolts, shackles, etc. The capacity of a crane is its maximum lift in perfect conditions. If the working conditions are not perfect, a competent person may increase the factor of safety, reducing the maximum load capacity. With the jib reaching as far away from the crane, the maximum weight is greatly reduced. No matter how large the capacity of the crane, it can only lift its maximum load if it is sited on a suitable, level working area. And always remember that the capacity of any lifting appliance is the safe working load of its weakest link. Crane stability depends upon setting up of a safe system of work which minimizes the risk of overturning or other failures. Hello and welcome. I am Javed and you are on the platform of Safety First. Today we are discussing about the safe use of cranes, lifting safety. It's part 4. If you are new on this channel, kindly subscribe Safety First and press the bell icon for all instant notifications in the future as well. If you find the video informative, then like, comment and share with your friends. Dear friends and fellows, cranes are used for lifting or lowering the materials. There are different types of cranes. Number 1, mobile crane. Number 2, overhead crane. Number 3, tower crane. And number 4, gantry crane. You can look at the slide on the left side. This is the example of mobile truck mounted crane or lorry mounted hay-up crane. On the right side, at top, mobile rough terrain crane, and below, mobile all-terrain truck mounted crane. These all are different types of mobile cranes. Have a look here on the left upper side. This is gantry crane. Downside, this is mobile crawler mounted crane. On the right side, at top, this is the photograph for a tower crane, and down below, this is an example of overhead crane. First of all, we will understand what responsibilities are imposed by lifting regulations on the employer. As an employer, you must make sure that the lifting operations are planned, supervised, and carried out in a safe manner by people who are competent. Where equipment is used for lifting people, it is marked accordingly and it should be safe for such a purpose. For example, all necessary precautions have been taken to eliminate or reduce any risk. Where appropriate, before lifting equipment, including accessories, is used for the first time, it is thoroughly examined. Lifting equipment may need to be thoroughly examined in use at periods specified in the regulations. At least 6 monthly for accessories and equipment used for lifting people, and at a minimum annually for all other equipment. All examination work should be performed by a competent person. Following a thorough examination or inspection of any lifting equipment, a report is submitted by the competent person to the employer to take the appropriate action. These all are the responsibilities imposed by the lifting equipment regulations on the employer. Dear friends and fellows, why is lifting equipment safety important? Working with any machinery can be dangerous because moving machinery can cause injuries in many ways. People can be hit and injured by moving parts of machinery or dropped or ejected material. Parts of the body can also be drawn in or trapped between rollers, belts, chains, and pulley drives. Sharp edges can cause cuts and severe injuries. Sharp pointed parts can stop or puncture the skin, and rough surface parts can cause friction or abrasion. People can be crushed both between parts moving together or towards the fixed part of the machine, wall, or other object, and two parts moving past one another can cause shearing. Parts of the machine, materials, and emissions such as steam or water can be hot or cold enough to cause burns or scalds, and electricity can cause electrical shock and burns. Equipment or attachments can become unreliable and develop faults due to poor or no maintenance. Or machines may be used improperly through inexperience or lack of training. And lastly, parts of the equipment may fail and loads may drop. Because of this lengthy list of dangers, it is important to upkeep safety standards, to implement safety standards, and maintain at all levels. Dear friends and fellows, once there are dangers, there are hazards, there is high risk. How to control this risk level to an acceptable level or to as low as reasonably practicable? You have to implement safe system of work. The safe system of work may include: number one, planning the lift; number two, selection of correct crane; number three, selection of correct lifting accessories; number four, selection and provision of trained and certified staff; number five, ensuring test certificates available and in order; and number six, controls to prevent unplanned lifts or movements of the lifting equipment. If you will follow these steps in a sequential order, you can easily maintain lifting safety at your workplace. Here the question is, who will implement safe system of work? The safe use of cranes require the appointment of a crane coordinator to have overall control of any lifting activities. Sometimes it is also called lifting appointed person. The duties of this person are contained in the standard, as are those for driver and banksman. If you are interested to know the duties of lifting appointed person, the crane operator or driver, and the banksman, please click on the link that is appearing on your screen. On larger lifts or those with special restrictions, a permit to work may become appropriate. To ensure that the lift can be achieved safely, we must ensure that we select the correct crane for the lift. Selection for the correct crane should be the number one priority if you are interested to maintain safe lifting operation at your workplaces. The selection of appropriate type of crane will depend upon weight and dimensions of load, heights of lifts and distances, areas of movements of load, number and frequency of lifts, length of time the crane will be required, site ground conditions, space available for crane access, erection, operation and dismantling, other special operational requirements such as adjacent operations. Once you are in the process of selecting the crane, you have to consider all these factors. Without considering these important points, it is almost impossible to choose or to select a correct or right crane for safe lifting in your workplace. Let us discuss now what to do before starting lifting operation. Dear friends and fellows, before you start using any equipment, you need to think about what risks may occur and how these can be managed. You should check that it is complete with all safeguards fitted and free from defects. This is about the lifting equipment and lifting accessories. Produce a safe system of work for using and maintaining the equipment. Maintenance may require the inspection of critical features where deterioration would cause a risk. Also look at the residual risks identified by the manufacturer in their informations, instructions, or recommendations provided with the equipment, and make sure they are included in the safe system of work. Make sure the lifting equipment has been installed properly, is stable, and is not in a location where other workers, customers, or visitors may be exposed to risk. And make sure you have chosen the right equipment for the job, for the task. Make sure the equipment is safe for any work that has to be done when setting up, during normal use, when carrying out repairs or breakdowns or faults, and during planned maintenance. Properly switched off, isolated, or locked off before taking any action to remove blockages, clean or adjust the equipment. Also make sure you identify and deal with the risks from electrical, hydraulic, or pneumatic power supplies. Badly designed safeguards. These may be inconvenient to use or easily overridden, which could encourage your workers to risk injury and break the law. If they are, find out why they are doing it and take appropriate action to deal with the reasons or the causes of deliberate or intentional safety violations. Dear friends and fellows, you have to make appropriate arrangements to prevent access to the dangerous parts of the lifting equipment. Think about how you can make the equipment safe. The measures you use to prevent access to dangerous parts should be defined and communicated. In some cases, it may be necessary to use a combination of these measures, which I'm going to discuss now. Use fixed guards, for example, secured with screws or nuts and bolts to enclose the dangerous parts whenever practicable. Use the best material for these guards. Plastic may be easy to see through, but may easily be damaged. Where you use wire mesh or similar materials, make sure the holes are not large enough to allow access for moving parts. If fixed guards are not practicable, use other methods. For example, interlock the guard so that the equipment cannot be started before the guard is closed and cannot be opened while the machine is still moving. In some cases, trip systems such as photoelectric devices, pressure-sensitive mats, or automatic guards may be used if other guards are not practicable. Where guards cannot give full protection, use jigs, holders, push sticks, etc. if it is practicable to do so. Control any remaining risk by providing the operator with the necessary information, instruction, training, supervision, and appropriate safety equipment. But in all cases, you will try your best to prevent access to the dangerous parts of the lifting machinery. Make sure control switches are clearly marked to show what they do. Have emergency stop controls where necessary. For example, mushroom head push buttons within easy reach. Make sure operating controls are designed and placed to avoid accidental operation and injury. Use two-hand controls where necessary, and shroud start buttons and pedals. Don't let unauthorized, unqualified, or untrained people to use lifting equipment. Never allow children to operate or help with lifting equipment. Some workers, for example, new starters, young people, or those with disabilities may be particularly at risk and need instruction, training, and keen supervision. Adequate training should ensure that those who use the equipment are competent to use it safely. They have the necessary skills, knowledge, and experience, and they are physically fit as per the nature of the task. And they are physically fit as per the nature of the task. Make sure the work area around the equipment is kept clean and tidy, free from obstructions or slips and trips hazards, and well lit. As the duty holder, you should make sure that all employees likely to use lifting equipment in a safe way, and they must check the equipment is well maintained and fit to be used. For example, appropriate for the job, working properly, and all the safety measures are in place. Make sure all parts, including attachments, can accommodate the load weight. Use the equipment properly and in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and recommendations. Make sure employees are wearing the appropriate protective clothing and equipment required for that machine, such as safety glasses, head protection, and safety shoes, etc. And also remember, don't use equipment that has a danger sign or tag attached to it. Danger signs should only be removed by an authorized person who is satisfied that the equipment or process is now safe. Don't remove any safeguards, even if their presence seems to make the job more difficult. Don't wear dangling chains, loose clothing, rings, or have loose, long hair that could get caught up in moving parts. And don't distract the people who are using the lifting equipment. If you are an employer or a self-employed person providing lifting equipment for use at work, or if you have control of the use of lifting equipment, you must make sure that it is safe. Think about what risks they may be and how they can be managed. For example, damage or deterioration of the equipment or attachments caused by wet, abrasive, or corrosive environments, trying to move weights that are too heavy and exceed the load limit of the machine, equipment failure, untrained workers planning the lift or using the equipment, and people being struck by moving parts of the equipment or by things falling. Safe lifting needs to be properly planned by a competent person, appropriately supervised, and carried out safely. Any equipment you use must have been properly designed, manufactured, and tested. And lastly, never forget maintenance of the lifting equipment. Dear friends and fellows, you are watching Safety First, and today we are discussing about safe use of cranes, lifting safety part 4. Let us discuss now the hazards when using the lifting equipment. There might be a unstable ground. Is the ground, the lifting appliance or machine or crane standing on, capable of withstanding the load? Are there any underground services, duct, chamber, or sealer? Another hazard during the lifting operation, it might be exceeding the safe working load. Is the lifting equipment safe working load sufficient for the load to be lifted at the correct radius? There might be overhead obstructions. You have to ensure, are there any overhead electricity cables in the vicinity of the lift or the slewing radius? Other overhead obstructions could also include aircrafts, etc. Weather condition matters during the lifting operation. You have to ensure, have weather conditions been taken into consideration? What is the wind speed? Is it safe to carry out lifting operation? Another hazard with respect to lifting operation is working condition of lifting appliances or machines or equipment. Has the lifting appliance crane received the following inspections for safe working? If the testing certificate is there, 12-month inspection certificate is there, 6-month inspection certificate for lifting accessories is valid and available, did operator weekly inspection is available, did operator daily inspections done, it might be visual checks, lubrication levels, and the tire pressures, etc. Dear friends and fellows, once the crane is at the location, prior to start lifting, you have to ensure all these safety factors. They are being complied, certification available, inspection carried out. Our crane is under the use of competent operator, trained and skilled slinger, and all the segment is being planned and supervised by a competent person or a crane coordinator, or even it is lifting appointed person. There might be additional hazards. Additional hazards can occur when equipment becomes unreliable and develops faults. Maintenance allows these faults to be diagnosed early and corrected to manage any risks. Maintenance needs to be correctly planned and carried out. Unsafe maintenance has caused many fatalities and serious injuries, either during the maintenance or to those using the badly or wrongly maintained or repaired lifting equipment. Once the crane is at site, you have to look for the site conditions. There are a number of factors which can affect the stability of the crane. You must remember these points when the crane is at your workplace. Access and egress routes, as the crane may be the largest item of plant on site. This will also include any weight limits that are on the roads, including bridges. Routes may require cranes to move on inclines, increasing the risk of overturning. Location of adjacent buildings, structures, etc., which could be hit by the load or the crane rear as it swings around. The ground is firm enough to take the loading imposed by the crane, especially the outriggers. No voids exist under the crane position. Manholes, culverts, gas water routes, etc. Presence of any overhead power lines. As a lifting staff, as a lifting appointed person or a supervisor, you have to consider what you are lifting and what problems does it present. How heavy is it? And is this within the safe limits for the lifting gear? Where is its center of gravity? How will you attach it to the lifting machinery? Who is in control of the lift? Could you rehearse the lift if necessary? Dear friends and fellows, when planning any lift, a number of key items must be considered. The correct crane has been arranged and supplied. Crane access, egress, and movement space is adequate and sufficient. Ground conditions are capable of taking the load. The crane is leveled. Any underground surfaces are protected from the load if it is to be placed on the ground. There are no overhead or side obstructions. At least 600 mm clearance is required. Any overhead power lines or power cables are isolated. The area around the lift is demarcated and only necessary persons or staff within it during the lift. It may be necessary to plan a viewing area if visitors are expected to watch the lift. Load to be lifted are determined reasonably accurately to include the weight of the lifting accessories. The load is within the load radius capacity of the crane. The load is free to be lifted. It is quite common when lifting out an existing component to find unknown fastenings still holding, which increases the load the crane is trying to lift. Location of lifting points ensures that the lift is level and doesn't tilt because it is out of balance, and the lifting points sufficiently strong to take the load. Additionally, you have to look out for the suspended loads. Where are people working? Is the load felt? The continuing integrity of the equipment, the attaching and detaching of loads, proximity hazards, pre-use checks. Remember, don't overload. Be aware of the causes of overturning and ensure this does not happen. And lastly, visibility, important factor. You have to ensure that you can see what is happening and happening safely. Dear friends and fellows, in the crane there are different safety devices. Let us make a short overview of these safety devices. A number of safety devices are available which assist the crane driver in ensuring that capacity is sufficient for the lift. Two of these are safe working load radius indicators and the automatic safe load indicator. The safe working load of a crane is calculated by the angle of the jib. The safe working load SWL radius indicator device indicates the safe working load applicable to the crane when the angle of the jib is varied. If the jib can be moved horizontally, the safe working load can be related to the length of the radius of arc made by the hook. The safe working load radius indicator only provides information for the operator. It may operate automatically or be given in tabular form and displayed where it can be easily seen by the crane operator. The information gives the safe working load for a given jib angle or the horizontal distance to the hook from the point of rotation of the crane. Let us discuss now what is automatic safe load indicator, ASLI. This is a device which gives a visual warning to the crane driver when the safe working load of the crane is being approached about 95% of the safe working load limit, and an audible warning to the driver, operator, and to the surrounding work area when the safe working load is exceeded about 105% to safe working load limit. Automatic safe load indicators must be tested before the crane is put into use and inspected weekly when in use. Records must be kept of tests and inspections. Testing can be carried out only by raising known loads under the control of a competent person. Where electrically operated automatic safe load indicators are used, a source of confusion can arise from the button mark test. This applies only to the testing of the electrical efficiency of the system, not to load indicating integrity of the unit. It is vitally important when jib angles are changed that the automatic safe load indicator is recalibrated to operate at the new safe working load limit. If the jib angle changes during the working operation, the automatic safe load indicator should be set at the smallest safe working load. There are other safety devices such as limit switches, anti to block. When the load lifted to the highest level and the operator wants more in the height, this limit switches, if it is working, automatically disengage and the crane operator until he will not reset the limit switch. He cannot continue the operation. Limit switches are used or designed to protect the crane structure from hitting the load, because once the load will hit the crane top, it will destabilize the crane and there is a possibility of crane overturning. Dear friends and fellows, before we look at the more specific requirements of loader, remember the general requirements of Power 98 for every employer to ensure that work equipment is so constructed or adapted as to be suitable for the purpose for which it is used or provided, and to have regard to the working conditions and risks to health and safety in the place in which that work equipment is to be used. If you are interested to know in depth about Roller and Power 98, please click on the link that is appearing on your screen. It is important to make risk assessment for lifting equipment and to maintain lifting safety. The risk assessment will need to include how often the lifting equipment will be used, where the lifting equipment will be used, the nature and characteristics of the load that the lifting equipment will lift, and any limitations on use specified by the manufacturer or supplier. It must cover means of access, ergonomic risks, weather conditions in open air operations, etc. Here I'm going to discuss now the Regulation 5 of Power, that is about the lifting equipment being used for lifting persons. Every employer shall ensure that lifting equipment for lifting persons is designed to prevent a person using it being crushed, trapped, or struck, or falling from the carrier. To prevent so far as is reasonably practicable a person using it while carrying out activities from the carrier being crushed, trapped, or struck, or falling from the carrier, with suitable devices to prevent the risk of carrier falling, so that a person trapped in any carrier is not thereby exposed to danger and can be freed. If the above risks cannot be prevented for reason inherent in the size and height differences, then the carrier must have a competent person, must inspect an enhanced safety coefficient suspension rope or chain, and the rope or chain every working day. Regulation 7 of the Power, that is about the marking of lifting equipment. Every employer shall ensure that machinery and accessories for lifting loads are clearly marked to indicate their safe working loads. Without marking, lifting accessories are not acceptable and not allowed to be used at site. Where the safe working load of machinery for lifting loads depends on its configuration, the machinery is clearly marked to indicate its safe working load for each configuration, or information which clearly indicates its safe working load for each configuration is kept with the machinery. Accessories for lifting are also marked in such a way that it is possible to identify the characteristics necessary for their safe use. Lifting equipment which is designed for lifting persons is appropriately and clearly marked to this effect. Let us discuss now the Power Regulation 8 about organizing of lifting operations. Every employer shall ensure that every lifting operation involving lifting equipment is the operation must be properly planned, and this is to be done by a competent person. The operation must be appropriately supervised. All work must be carried out in a safe manner. Most of the time, once there is insufficient resources, project team putting pressure on the safety practitioners and the lifting team They are pushing the lifting team and the safety practitioners to start lifting operation even once there are unsafe lifting accessories, crane with invalid certifications, operator competency is already expired. Once the lifting team or the safety department make objection against the unsafe lifting operation, the management representatives, they ask where it is written, how you can stop the lifting operation, who are you to stop it. For those colleagues, for those management representatives, for those managers, I am attaching the reference, the lifting operation regulations. This is written in regulation number 8. The lifting operation must be planned and should be supervised by a competent person, and all lifting operation must be carried out in a safe manner. You can easily give them the reference of regulation 8 that is related to power. Let us discuss now the thorough examination and inspection of lifting equipment, regulation 9 of power. Employers must ensure that the lifting equipment is thoroughly examined after installation and prior to service. Every employer must ensure that lifting equipment which is exposed to conditions causing deterioration, which is liable to result in dangerous situations, is thoroughly examined. In the case of lifting equipment for lifting persons or an accessory for lifting, at least every 6 months. In the case of other lifting equipment, at least every 12 months, or in either case, in accordance with an examination scheme, and each time that exceptional circumstances which are liable to jeopardize the safety of the lifting equipment have occurred, and if appropriate for the purpose, is inspected by a competent person at suitable intervals between thorough examinations. Dear friends and fellows, you are well aware what are included in the lifting accessories. Have a sharp overview. Lifting accessories, previously known as lifting tackles. It includes ropes, wires, chains used on mechanical lifting equipment, provide the linking system between the operators generating mechanical advantage and the loads being moved are supported. The term lifting accessories covers such things as chain and rope slings, rings, hooks, shackles, and swivels. All these are the connecting units. It connects load with the lifting equipment. The main requirement relating to lifting accessories are they are of good construction, sound material, and adequate strength and free from patent defects. The safe working load SWL must be displayed or for lifting accessories plainly marked on it. Only items listed or marked may be used in the lifting operation. The safe working load must never be exceeded. Before being taken into service, all items must be tested and thoroughly examined by a competent person, and at 6 monthly intervals during service. Certificates must be issued for all items, and registers must be kept except for fiber rope slings giving details of equipment. Several times you are hearing in the presentation, lifting operation should be supervised by a competent person. Then inspection should be carried out by a competent person. Who are a competent person? Let us understand now who can be a competent person. A competent person carrying out a thorough examination must be deemed competent by virtue of attaining the appropriate theoretical and practical knowledge, together with the experience that will enable them to detect defects or weaknesses in the equipment. This will be a combination of experience, training, and qualifications. Experience, training, and qualification requirements are different country to country, area to area, project to project, and client to client. But in general, a competent person must be experienced, trained, and qualified. Here the question comes, what I have to do if I'm an employer, if you are an employer and you provide lifting equipment, you need to demonstrate that you have arrangements in place to make sure they are maintained in a safe condition. Think about what hazards can occur if equipment or an attachment breaks during use, during the lifting operation. Equipment starts up unexpectedly. There is contact with materials that are normally enclosed within the machine, caused by leaks, breakage, or ejection, etc. If a load or part of the load falls, these all are the critical scenarios. You have to think what you can do then, how you can avoid these incidents. Only by the implementation of planned preventive maintenance program. Failing to correctly plan and communicate clear instructions and information before starting maintenance can lead to confusion and can cause accidents. This can be a particular problem if maintenance is carried out during normal production work or where there are contractors who are unfamiliar with the site. Extra care is also required if maintenance involves working at height or when doing work that requires access to unusual parts of the building. Entering vessels or confined spaces where there may be toxic materials or a lack of breathable air. Dear friends and fellows, before starting maintenance, decide if the work should be done by specialist contractors. Never take on work for which you are not competent or not prepared. Plan the work carefully before you start, ideally using the manufacturer's maintenance instructions, and produce a safe system of work. This will reduce the risks and avoid unforeseen delays. Make sure maintenance staff are competent and have appropriate clothing and equipment. Or in other words, you can say the maintenance staff should be equipped with the personal protective equipment. Try and use downtime for maintenance. You can avoid the difficulties in coordinating maintenance and lost production if maintenance work is performed before startup or during shutdown periods. Once you are carrying out maintenance, definitely you require safe working areas. You must provide safe access and a safe place of work. Don't just focus on the safety of maintenance workers. Take the necessary precautions to ensure the safety of others who may be affected by this maintenance work. For example, other employees or contractors working nearby. Set up signs and barriers and position people at key points if they are needed to keep other people out. Dear friends and fellows, I'm going to summarize lifting safety fourth session, safe use of cranes. You can make a checklist, what you have to do and what you should never do. Use only certified lifting equipment marked with its safe working load, which is not overdue for examination or inspection. Keep the reports of thorough examination as well as any declarations of conformity or test certificates. Make sure the load is properly attached to the lifting equipment. If necessary, securely bind the load to prevent it slipping or falling off. Before lifting an unbalanced load, find out its center of gravity. Raise it a few inches off the ground and pause. There will be little harm if it drops. Use packaging material to prevent sharp edges of the load from damaging slings, and don't allow tackles to be damaged by being dropped, dragged from underloads, or subjected to sudden loads. When using jib cranes, make sure any indicators for safe loads are working properly and set correctly for the job and the way the machine is configured. Use outriggers where necessary. When using multi-slings, make sure the sling angle is taken into account. Have a responsible slinger or banksman and use a recognized signaling system. All these things you will consider and you will apply in your workplace. You will never use unsuitable equipment, makeshift, damaged, badly worn chains shortened with knots, kinked or twisted wire ropes, frayed or rotted fiber ropes during the lifting operation. Don't exceed the safe working load of machinery or accessories like chains, webbing slings, and grabs. Remember, the load in the legs of a sling increases as the angle between the legs increases. And don't lift a load if you doubt its weight or the adequacy of the equipment. And lastly, some golden rules. Those are related to safe lifting operation. Ensure that all lifting operations are risk assessed. Safe working load (SWL) must never be exceeded. The status of all equipment to be known by all people using it and all who may be affected by it. The status is to be clearly identified and communicated. All checks are to be done by a competent person prior to start lift and if required during the lifting operation. Only trained people allowed in areas where lifting equipment is in use. The equipment in use is only to be made of material suitable for the conditions under which it is to be used. All fixing points and mountings are to be of adequate strength and capability. Environmental aspects needs to be taken into consideration when you are out of doors. There are high winds. What is the wind speed? And lastly, lifting equipment that has been parked or the lifting accessory that has been stored needs checking, needs proper inspection prior to use. And that's all for now. Training session related to lifting safety, safe use of cranes, part 4 is over now. If you have any question, please ask in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. Hope to see you soon with a new HSC tutorial. Till then, take care. Very good luck and Allah Hafiz.